Jack McAllister had always lived a life guided by routine and solitude. He was a cowboy in every sense of the word, strong, skilled with horses, and comfortable under the open skies of the vast plains. His days were filled with work, tending the ranch, mending fences, and riding his horse for miles across the golden fields. Though he appeared calm and self-reliant, there was a quiet sadness in his eyes, a shadow that lingered from years of personal loss. Life had taught him that the world could be harsh, and he had learned to keep his heart guarded. One bright morning, as Jack rode along a narrow trail near the edge of the forest, he noticed a movement in the distance. At first he thought it was a deer, but as he approached he realized it was a person, lying still on the ground. As he got closer, his heart quickened. It was a woman, a native woman, and she appeared to be badly hurt. Her arm was twisted at an odd angle, and her face was streaked with dirt and tears. Something in her eyes spoke of fear, pain, and loneliness. Jack dismounted carefully and approached her, keeping his voice calm and soft. "Hey, are you all right? Don't worry. I won't hurt you." She looked up at him with wide eyes, her lips trembling as if to speak, but no words came. He noticed the way she tried to move away, wincing in pain. Jack understood that she was wary. In her eyes he saw a lifetime of mistrust, a fear that anyone approaching could bring danger rather than help. "I'm here to help," he said again, gently lifting her arm to check her injuries. She flinched, but she didn't run. Slowly, carefully, he assessed her injuries. She had a deep bruise on her leg and cuts on her hands from falling. Her breathing was uneven, but she was alive. That was the first thing Jack had to be sure of. Her survival was more important than anything else. Without waiting for her to respond, Jack lifted her carefully and guided her onto his horse. He kept his words soft, soothing, hoping to ease her fear. "I'll take care of you," he said simply. "Just hold on." She still didn't speak, but her eyes softened slightly, a small sign that maybe she trusted him just enough to let him help. The ride to his ranch was quiet, except for the soft sounds of the horse's hooves on the dirt trail. Jack could feel the tension in her body, the way she kept herself rigid as though bracing for harm. He respected her caution. He knew that trust could not be rushed. Arriving at his ranch, he helped her down gently, supporting her injured leg. He guided her to a small guest room, making sure she was comfortable before fetching water and a clean cloth to tend her wounds. As he cleaned the cuts on her hands and applied bandages, she finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Why are you helping me?" Jack looked at her and smiled kindly. "Because it's the right thing to do. Everyone deserves help when they're hurt." There was no judgment in his tone, only honesty. She looked away, her eyes glistening, and Jack sensed the walls around her heart were beginning to crack, even if only slightly. Days passed, and Jack tended to her injuries with care. He brought her food, checked on her leg, and made sure she had everything she needed. She began to move more freely, although she still preferred to stay close to the room, away from the world that had caused her pain. Jack never pushed her to speak more than she wanted, and that patience became a bridge between them. In the quiet evenings, when the chores were done, they would sit by the fireplace. Jack would talk about the ranch, the horses, and the changing seasons. At first she listened in silence, but gradually she started to ask questions. "Do all cowboys live like this?" she asked one evening, curiosity sparking in her voice. Jack chuckled softly. "Most of us live simple lives. The land is our home, and we do what we can to care for it." She smiled faintly, a smile that felt like a small gift to him, as though she was beginning to trust not just his actions but his heart. Over time, small moments of connection became more frequent. She would help him with simple chores, picking vegetables from the garden or feeding the chickens. Jack noticed the care she took in everything she did, how even in her weakness she had strength and grace. He admired her quietly, not daring to speak the thoughts that began to stir in his heart. She in turn began to observe him closely, the patience in his movements, the kindness in his words, and the respect he gave her without ever asking for anything in return. One afternoon, Jack decided it was time to see if she could ride again. "You're strong enough now," he said gently, helping her onto the horse. She hesitated, fear flickering in her eyes, but Jack stayed close. "I'll be right here," he reassured her. With careful steps, she guided the horse forward. The first few moments were tense, but gradually her confidence returned. She laughed softly, a sound that was like sunlight breaking through clouds. Jack felt warmth in his chest. realizing that her joy was slowly becoming as important to him as his own. Their bond deepened over the following weeks. They shared stories of their pasts, hers of her family, her community, and the hardships she had faced, his of the life he had chosen, the solitude and the losses he had endured. In these stories they found understanding and empathy. The walls they had built around themselves began to crumble, replaced by a connection neither of them had expected to find. Yet trust was still delicate. There were moments of doubt, moments when she would pull back, reminding him that her past had left scars that could not be healed overnight. Jack never gave up. He respected her space, offered gentle encouragement, and continued to care for her without expectation. Slowly, she began to open her heart in ways that were small but meaningful. She would glance at him with a soft smile, offer him tea, or simply sit quietly in his presence. Jack began to notice how her presence changed the rhythm of his days. The mornings were brighter with her laughter, the chores lighter with her help, and the evenings warmer with her company. He realized that what he felt was no longer just concern or responsibility. It was something deeper, a feeling that frightened him slightly because he had not allowed himself to feel it in a long time. One evening, as the sun set over the rolling plains, they sat together outside, watching the sky turn shades of pink and gold. She leaned back, resting her head against his shoulder for the first time without hesitation. Jack felt a quiet surge of emotion, understanding that trust had grown into something more profound. There was no rush, no words needed. The moment itself spoke volumes. As night fell, he helped her back inside, ensuring she was comfortable. He stood for a moment at the doorway, watching the stars twinkle in the vast sky, thinking about how life had brought them together in such unexpected circumstances. He had healed her body, but little did he know she would soon heal his heart in ways he had never imagined. In the days that followed, their companionship strengthened. Laughter became more frequent, shared stories became longer, and silences became comfortable. Jack understood that trust, patience, and kindness could create bonds stronger than fear or pain. And although neither of them admitted it aloud yet, a seed of love had been planted, growing quietly but steadily in the spaces between them. Part 1 ends here, with Jack feeling a shift in his heart. Sensing that this unexpected encounter was about to change his life forever, the journey of healing had begun, and with it came the promise of something neither of them could have predicted, a love that would transform them both. Days turned into weeks and Lila's strength returned fully. She moved freely now, walking through the fields, tending to the garden, and helping with chores around the ranch. Jack noticed the change not just in her body but in her spirit. She walked taller, her eyes brighter, and her laughter came more easily. Their daily lives became intertwined naturally, each action flowing alongside the other. Jack began to realize that he had grown to depend on her presence more than he expected. Her voice brought comfort, and her smile brought warmth to days that had once felt empty. As they worked side by side, the bond between them deepened. Jack taught her the skills of the ranch, how to ride horses properly, how to rope cattle, and the delicate art of mending fences. At first she stumbled, her movements unsure, but with his gentle guidance she became confident. Her determination impressed Jack. He admired how she faced each challenge with courage, even when fear or doubt lingered. Lila, in turn, watched Jack carefully. She saw a man of quiet strength who carried the weight of his past with dignity. She noticed his patience, the respect he gave to every living creature, and the kindness he extended without expecting anything in return. Slowly, admiration grew into affection, though neither spoke it aloud yet. Evenings became the time they shared most. After long days of work, they would sit by the fire or under the open sky. Jack would tell stories about the land, the animals, and his childhood. Lila would share stories of her family, her community, and the traditions that had shaped her life. Listening to her, Jack realized how much he had missed hearing someone's voice that carried both strength and wisdom. Lila listened to him as well, finding in his stories a calm reassurance she had never known before. Their conversations flowed naturally, filled with laughter, shared reflections, and moments of silence that felt comfortable rather than awkward. However, not everyone in the nearby town accepted their growing friendship. Some people looked at them with suspicion or whispered judgments because of cultural differences. Jack noticed the disapproval, but he refused to let it affect his actions. He had learned long ago that the opinions of others could not dictate the heart. He stood firm, protecting Lila and their bond with quiet determination. Lila, too, recognized his commitment and felt a growing trust. She understood that Jack's care was genuine, that his actions came from a place of sincerity rather than obligation. Their days continued in this rhythm of work and quiet companionship, but gradually, small gestures began to reveal the deeper feelings they harbored for each other. Lila would leave freshly picked flowers on Jack's table, or prepare a simple meal with care, her eyes lingering on him with unspoken affection. Jack found himself watching her when she didn't notice, admiring the way she moved with grace and confidence. Their hearts were speaking to each other without words, a language that only they could understand. One afternoon, as the sun bathed the plains in golden light, Jack and Lila rode together to check the fences at the far edge of the ranch. They laughed as their horses trotted side by side, and the air was filled with the sounds of hooves and wind. At a quiet moment, they stopped by a small creek. Lila dismounted and knelt by the water, her reflection rippling in the clear surface. Jack watched her, a feeling swelling in his chest that he could no longer ignore. She looked up and smiled at him, and in that moment, the unspoken emotions between them felt undeniable. As days passed, their relationship deepened further. They began to share dreams and fears, speaking openly about the hopes they had once kept hidden. Jack confessed his loneliness, the sadness he had carried since losing loved ones. Lila spoke of the challenges she had faced in her own life and the fear she once held of trusting anyone again. Sharing these truths created a bridge of intimacy, one built on honesty, respect, and mutual care. Each day, they discovered new ways to support and uplift each other. Jack learned to laugh freely again, while Lila discovered a sense of safety and belonging she had never experienced before. The turning point came one quiet evening under a sky full of stars. They had spent the day riding and working together, and as night fell, they sat on a wooden fence gazing at the vast expanse above. Lila leaned slightly against Jack, and he felt the warmth of her presence settle into his soul. Words were unnecessary. In the silence, they both recognized the feelings that had been growing steadily, like a hidden fire now impossible to ignore. Jack spoke first, his voice soft and steady. I care for you more than I expected." Lila turned to him, her eyes shining. "I care for you too," she replied. In that moment, love was confessed, simple and true, filling the emptiness they had each carried for so long. From that night on, their relationship transformed into something even more profound. Love became part of their daily lives, evident in small acts of care and kindness. Jack would bring her breakfast to her room in the morning, and she would greet him with a smile that lit up his day. They worked together in harmony, sharing responsibilities and enjoying each other's company. Their connection was no longer just companionship. It was a partnership grounded in respect, admiration, and the deep joy of mutual affection. Life on the ranch changed in ways that were both subtle and extraordinary. The work remained, but the presence of love transformed every task into something meaningful. The mornings felt brighter, the evenings warmer, and the simple routines of life carried a sense of purpose. Jack found himself smiling more freely, laughing more often, and feeling a peace he had not known in years. Lila, too, thrived in this environment of care and support, her heart open to the possibilities that love had brought. They faced challenges together, as all couples do. Occasionally, the whispers of others tried to intrude, and there were moments when the past seemed close enough to cast a shadow. But they faced these challenges united, leaning on the strength of their bond. Jack's courage and patience, combined with Lila's resilience, created a partnership that could withstand hardships. Every challenge overcome strengthened their connection, reaffirming that love founded on respect and care could endure even in a world that sometimes seemed unkind. Seasons passed, and with each changing season their love grew stronger. They celebrated small victories together, the harvest from the garden, the birth of new animals on the ranch, and quiet evenings by the fire. They shared dreams of the future, speaking of expanding the ranch, exploring the plains together, and building a life filled with purpose and joy. In each other they found not only love but hope, companionship, and a sense of home that neither had expected to find. One spring morning, Jack and Lila stood on a hill overlooking the ranch, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. The world felt vast yet intimate, and Jack realized that life had given him a gift he had never dared to hope for, a love that healed his heart, brought laughter to his days, and made every moment worth living. Lila squeezed his hand gently, and he knew that she felt the same. Their hearts had found each other in the most unexpected way, and that connection would guide them through the rest of their lives. The story of Jack and Lila was not one of grand gestures or dramatic adventures. It was a story of quiet heroism, compassion, and the transformative power of love. Jack had healed Lila physically, but in return she had healed him emotionally. Together they discovered that true love often comes quietly, in moments of care, patience, and trust, and that it has the power to change lives in ways that no one could predict. As they walked back to the ranch that morning, side by side, the future stretched out before them like the endless plains they had come to call home. Every day, every shared task, every laugh and story was a reminder that love was not just an emotion but a force that could reshape lives, bring healing, and create joy where there had once been only solitude. Jack and Lila had found something rare and beautiful, a love born of kindness, trust, and the courage to open their hearts, and it was a love that would continue to grow, bringing light to both of their lives for years to come.